This program is about leadership, social justice, and humanity, and everything that concerns us as human beings. People would rather not talk about them, yet they have views to be expressed, challenged, and discussed. Hello, the purpose of this program is to challenge, educate, create awareness, and provoke debates on leadership, religion, traditions, cultures, morality, and other social issues that contend to control the way we live, but yet no one wants to speak about them. Hello, welcome to Xraywithjenny. Today, we are going to discuss the very topical issue in Nigeria today, which also affects a lot of countries in Africa, and that is corruption. Hello, welcome back to Xraywithjenny. As I mentioned earlier, today we are discussing corruption. Corruption has been a very topical issue since the new administration in Nigeria came in. But before then, there had always been debates about what the biggest problem facing Nigeria is. A lot of people have argued that it's lack of, institutions, credible institutions, strong institutions, and others have argued that it is corruption. Personally, I believe that it is corruption because no matter how strong the institutions you have may be, if you don't have strong, credible leaders who are prepared to show the will to combat corruption and make such institutions work, it will not work. And why are some leaders unable or showing an absolute lack of will in fighting corruption? It's purely because they are compromised. And a lot of Nigerians talk about corruption, but many of us don't seem to understand precisely, what this corruption is. When we talk about corruption, the big issue is that every Nigerian should make the effort to really understand what corruption is. In the English legal system, it's actually said that when a thief steals from somebody, they become thieves because they actually intend to take the property belonging to somebody away from them and permanently deprive them of the use of those properties. Corruption, on the other hand, is actually defined as a conduct which involves bribery, falsification, deception, especially by people in government. But my question all the time is, what is the difference between corruption and stealing? There is really no difference, because when a person in leadership or a leader takes property belonging to his country or to his state and then converts that property into his own property with no intention of letting the people share in the dividends of his investment using that property, he is as good as a thief. And if he is as good as a thief, why is it then that some people do not want to accept that and then treat him the way a thief should be treated? So in my opinion, really, I believe that anybody in leadership or any leader who takes property belonging to Nigeria, his state, or anybody with no intention of returning it is a thief. And there should be no sentiments. We should treat them the way a thief should be treated, or treat them the way thieves should be treated in accordance with the law. The current situation in Nigeria calls for a lot of attention and interest. Many Nigerians are complaining. They are happy that the new administration is here. They came in on the platform and understanding with promises that they are going to combat corruption. And I believe that people voted for them because of that promise. Now they are trying to start fighting corruption, but there is a big problem. Some people feel that some people are being targeted, some people are being made scapegoats, and that the fight is not holistic. It's actually being sort of a witch hunting by which people in leadership, the current government and party, are actually trying to target their enemies. But I find it quite difficult to understand. We have had a lot of arguments on social media about how we can actually combat corruption under this leadership. The general view is that it must be holistic in order to be believed as genuine, and something that this government is doing for the whole of Nigeria, not themselves or their political parties. And I totally agree with that. But the question is, how holistic is holistic, and where do we start? The fight against corruption has only started. I'll just say that it's just like as old as the new government. And if that is the case, I strongly believe that until this government says to us that they have started the fight, they have finished the fight, and Nigerians are convinced that there are some people who are actually corrupt in the leadership or outside the leadership who are connected to the government, who have not actually been interrogated, probed, investigated, and then brought before the courts and charged with corrupt practices, and if found guilty, put in prison, then Nigerians will have absolute right to condemn and criticize this government for failing in the fight against corruption, for being selective about it, for being dishonest about it. And in my opinion, if that ever happens, that will be absolute failure, and Nigerians cannot stand back and watch a situation where some people are selected and treated as criminals when the actual criminals are actually out there on the street, on loose, and doing as they like. That is not actually the spirit of it. But what I am wondering now is, how do we address this problem? Because if we allow some people to say that they are being targeted because of having opposing political views, or for belonging to any particular tribe or religion, how do we then ensure that that doesn't become a credible defense for anybody who is actually picked up for corruption? How do I then gain confidence in the system where I, as an Igbo woman, is picked up because I have been involved in corrupt practices? And then I claim that I have been picked on because I am Igbo, I don't belong to the right party, I have said something against the interest of the government, that is why they are targeting me. And I can guarantee that there will be so many Igbo people who will rally around me and make a big noise about it. If our legal system, if the judiciary should be intimidated by such sentiments, where does the fight start? So I think that at this present stage, what Nigerians should be looking at really is getting an undertaking from the current administration, getting them to define the limits of this investigation, of this fight against corruption, set time lags, tell us how long they are going to do this, and the sort of things that people will do and that can be considered corruption, and then provide a platform where the average Nigerian can feel free and be at liberty to call and say, look, I think that this person is corrupt. It may be that you need to put your X-ray or searchlight on them, and it may be that they have something to say, or maybe they're hiding assets. And the Nigerian public should also be educated on what is corruption, because we are looking at corruption as, the exclusive thing, that people in leadership do. I, fear to say that majority of us Nigerians are corrupt. And if majority of us are corrupt, we need to be actually zooming in on everybody. Look at a typical example. You go to a Nigerian ministry. You have people who are working, civil servants who are not even qualified to work there, but they have been working there for God knows how long, because they have people in government who have given them opportunities that belong to other people. Fair enough, they are working there, but why are they there? They are there to protect the interest of the person that brought them in. They are actually the people who go out there and organize bribery. They intimidate people into giving up their rights in order to support the person who brought them in. You go to a ministry, you get a contract in a ministry, you are supposed to deliver on this contract, you are given your mobilization fee, and then you are supposed to go out there and do the work, bring by your report, claim your money. However, this doesn't go as smoothly as this, because the minister may not be corrupt, but he's actually signed the money. The secretary in his office would need money before he releases your check. then before he releases your check, you have to go through the system. You pay him money, and then you pay the PA to the minister, and you pay all of that. All of the people in this chain are corrupt. So if we are going to go after the minister, we must also go after the people who work for him and who helps him to actually continue with his corrupt practices. So we can't, as Nigerians, sit back and say, oh, every Nigerian government official is corrupt. We are not corrupt. But who is helping them to be corrupt? If I go into the ministry today and start looking at people who are working in the ministries, you have me as a civil servant in the ministry. I am earning about 100,000 per annum, but I'm driving a car worth 50 million, and no one is asking questions. Because the minister is silent, I am delivering. He tells me who to go and get money for. I get the money, I give him, he gives me my coat. And then what moral right do I then have to say that a minister is corrupt and he must be probed and put in prison? If that is the case, we are actually going to make it impossible for people to serve our country. And that means that the fight against corruption must be holistic. And if, in order for it to be holistic, it has to involve citizens and leaders. Because citizenship, democracy is an agreement between leaders and the citizens. If the leaders do not play their roles, the citizens have the right to ask them or to hold them to account. And holding them to account is the role we play in order to make sure that we have a credible or we have a sustainable democracy. But a lot of us are turning a blind eye. So long as the person stealing this money is my friend or relative and I'm going to get a share of it, then clearly I am not corrupt. Now we're talking about declaration of assets. Let's say that that is the platform upon which we want to stand. Declaration of assets. One, it's important that everybody who is in leadership or who holds a public office must declare their assets. But then if they declare all their assets and we know that they've got £500 in a bank account, 20 houses, and in the past 5 years they have been earning less than money that can actually purchase a house, is that not an alarm bell? That should actually be the red light to say that this person may not be a credible person because his means cannot actually justify all the things that he says that he has. And then in addition to that, if we then begin to look at what he had or what he was doing before he then became the president or became the governor or became everything, we need to also look at how much tax he may have paid to the nation. So if I'm declaring asset of 20 billion, but in the past 10 years, I've only paid 1 million naira in tax. So what happened to the rest of the tax that is payable on the rest of the assets? Where did I get the money from? There are several things that Nigerians can do in order to put the searchlight on people serving our country. And a lot will be done. So when that is done, when we come back, I will try and deal with some of the things we can do in order to make sure that this fight is holistic. All of us are involved. We are criticizing people in government, for failing to do what they are doing, and we are open to change.
Corruption is one aspect the present administration should concentrate on. Corruption, however, described by the people as a menace that the youth of today should be guided against.
Corruption has been what has been the bane of Nigerian development, and unless it is curbed or totally eradicated, there's no way Nigeria can move forward.
Corruption is a menace, and it's something that has marred not just Nigeria, but the whole world entirely. It's something that you cannot just rule out from the whole world. But that of Nigeria, I think it's to a very high degree.
The problem we're having is that our leaders are corrupt. And if the leaders are corrupt, then the followers too will do the same. So if the present regime can work on that, I think Nigeria will be better.
The public is bent on tight against corruption.
The government has more to do with corruption, because when we tackle corruption from up there, you understand, it's a problem that we can solve from up there. If the government itself is not corrupt, you understand, the masses, the people on the streets are not going to be corrupt, because it has to do with policy development and policy implementation. If we should get the legal system of Nigeria right, if we should get the policies put in place and have them properly enforced, I don't think people will be falling out of line.
Yeah, the solution is to get everybody accountable for his or her action, and when that is done, everybody will know that the fact that you are there in the government doesn't give you that totality to just do whatever you like. So far that you will get accountable for your actions while in the government.
The system is actually corrupt, and well, it's actually, I believe that our problem, or the reason why we have such corruption issues, is from the citizen. That's we are the ones causing the problem. If we really want something to really work in this country, it has to start from us.
Welcome back to X-Ray with Jenny. During this segment, what I really want to do is to discuss how all of us Nigerians can get involved in this fight against corruption. The most very important thing is for all of us to accept that the fight against corruption is not for the benefits of this current administration. It's for our benefit as a country. If we can rid our country of corruption, then we'll be back on the road we are supposed to be on to our ordained destiny as the giants of Africa, making waves in Africa. So in my mind, really, I think that what is on ground at the moment calls for action. If we take declaration of assets, for instance, let's look at what may be corrupt about it. Corruption about declaration of assets can be in two ways. First is if I declare more than I am supposed to have, and there are no credible means of determining how I made money to have those assets, then it's a problem. It's something we need to look into. We need to look further into it. If, on the other hand, I know that I have assets which I have actually obtained fraudulently, and I'm trying to suppress information and fail to declare it, then there is an added problem. That is corruption as well, but it's also deception. And deception is a criminal act punishable by law. So if I am the person now under X-ray who has assets and failed to declare all of them, or have declared all of them, and my last earning or wages, whatever I have been paid in the past 4 years, I have been a governor or something, cannot actually afford all of those, then clearly I have a case to answer. And the role Nigerians have to play is to allow the system to take its full course. There should be no need, there is no need for sentiments. If it's your brother, your sister, your son, unfortunately, it's them. It has to start with them. And they have to actually go before the law, clear their names, or if they can't clear their names, be punished, and then we will have a clean system. That will set standards, and when these standards are set, people who are aspiring to be leaders, people who are already there will know that there is no room for maneuver anymore. It is no longer business as usual, where you can get government money and spend it as you like and no one asks questions. I worry as well. People are saying, everybody has to be under the X-ray, and I agree with that. But the question is, do we have the resources to wake up one morning and round up everybody in government and take them before the CCB? Do we have the capacity? How many judges do we have who will be in court to look into all these matters in one day? I believe that it has to start from somewhere. Certain group of people should be brought before the courts, be investigated, be asked questions. They will then have to clear their names or be sent down for prosecution. And then when that finishes, we carry on just like that until such a time that we know that we have actually looked at everybody's case. And when we have looked at everybody's case, if we have any reason as Nigerians to believe that our government is not picking up on some people who actually needs to be looked into, their affairs need to be looked into, then clearly that will be a very good reason and time as well for us to say, no, we campaign for change. I am one person who seriously campaigned for change. And the change I campaigned for is not one that will bring in selective justice. No, it has to be justice for all in accordance with the law. And in order to make that possible, every Nigerian has a role to play. And that role starts with you and me by asking questions, reporting whatever you suspect to be corrupt practices, supporting the government in the fight, and raising your voices, constructively when you feel that things are not being done the right way. But to constantly complain about, it's a northern agenda, it's the government trying to settle scores with friends, people that are opposed to them, it will not help. So the big question for every Nigerian at this present time is really, how do we then start combating corruption? How do we then agree that the approach is holistic? What is the definition for holistic approach? Because when you talk about holistic, we talk about everybody being under the X-ray. And in order to get everybody under the X-ray, when do we do that? How do we do that? And how do we achieve that without actually forcing the system to collapse? Because I sincerely believe that if we carry on the way we are carrying on now, and people, raising sentiments, getting people to come and say, oh, well, this person is being witch hunted, and until everybody is, brought before the law courts, this cannot be fair. There will never be a time when everybody will be brought before the law courts. What is important is that everyone is under the X-ray, and that whoever has done anything wrong should actually be punished. It's only when they fail to punish them that we will then say, well, it's not a fair system. There are so many people in government as well, because this is a very important point. There are so many people in government as well who Nigerians believe are corrupt and shouldn't be there. And unfortunately, I'm one of those Nigerians. There are a few people I believe are very severely corrupt and who must be brought before the court. But they are hiding, they're managing to hide and put a strong face. But the truth is that until those people are also brought before the law, we will not believe that corruption, the fight against corruption is holistic. However, we must remember one thing. In order for them to come before the law, if the government is not picking on them, then report them to the government. If you report them to the government and government does nothing, then that's when we have a case. And if we pull them up with evidence and the government refuses to look into their affairs, then that's when we have a big case with our government. But if we sit back and say, because they haven't been picked up, nobody else should be picked up, then there is something wrong. And we will never get to the very end of the fight against corruption. So in my view, really, this is a fight that needs every hand on deck. Every Nigerian must get involved, and in order to get involved, we must deal with the prejudices that constantly pervade our minds. It's not about religion, it's not about tribe, it's not about gender, it's about our country, Nigeria. We need to reposition our country, and we cannot reposition our country doing the same thing that we have been doing for the past 50, 55 years. We need to have a change of attitude. Some people are saying, why is it that certain people are being picked up now? Why were they not picked up now? The previous administration did their very best, and I can guarantee that, they possibly did more than a lot of people would understand or want to accept, but they were not open about fighting corruption and assuring Nigerians that they were going to get rid of corruption. So people were not aware of it. So the fight just started, in essence, really. So we need to look at how best we can collaborate with the government. What do we have to bring on board to make this corruption thing, reality? Let's fight corruption. Let's bury corruption. and then give Nigeria a new face, a new attitude, and a new perspective. Until we do that and we hold hands together as Nigerians dealing with this matter, we will never be able to get to our promised land or our destination. We will possibly end up after these 4 years being in the same position we have been before. And that is not the point of bringing in a new administration. We have to have a new impetus. We have to have a new attitude. We have to have a new approach. If we don't do it that way, then the journey is still a very long walk away from all of us. Thank you. And we will look at the next segment. If you have enjoyed today's program and you'd like to be part of it in future or have any comments to make, please feel free to look at our details on the screen. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and all the usual social media outlets. We will be very happy to speak with you. Thank you. This program is about leadership, social justice, and humanity, and everything that concerns us as human beings. People would rather not talk about them, yet they have views to be expressed, challenged, and discussed.